So let's go into the cabinet.
Yeah. Since we're talking about wokeness, let's talk about Biden's woke cabinet.
So this was the question being posed: do you think Biden is woke? Well, okay, maybe let's just ignore Biden for a second. Let's look at the people around him. We've read his manifesto before. We've gone through it.
It's full of woke nonsense.
It's woke garbage. But his cabinet members were interesting. So the first one I wanted to talk about here was his pick for Secretary of the Interior, Deb Haaland. And you can see she, her in her bio, which is amazing. But then this is the first tweet we found from her talking about
single
herself.
mother, brilliant. Yep.
Yeah, first Native American woman. Okay, of course, that's your definition of yourself. But this is Black Lives Matter Plaza, and her celebrating that Black Lives Matter Plaza has been sent up. So Black Lives Matter Plaza is a symbolic starting point for the movement that says enough is enough and creates a future where we dismantle institutional racism. #BLM.
And again, just to be clear, from her perspective, institutional racism is the institutions themselves are racist. The institutions themselves that are concerned about the way that people behave. And so the way that you interact with the institution is predicated on the way that you treat others, and the way that the way that you deal with yourself creates different outcomes. And that normally is what we call justice. Like, someone who commits a crime should go to jail. Someone who doesn't commit a crime shouldn't go to jail. So
that's actual justice.
Yeah, that's actual justice, the way that this behaved. But then when you look at it and go, well, okay, but this group has committed more crimes than this group, therefore that's racism. That's not what that means.
And that's where the social justice comes in opposed to justice. Exactly. Like, does the social group have its justice of having an equal amount of people arrested? And of course, that doesn't make any sense.
No.
Like, there's just nonsense. But she's not the only one that's obviously indoctrinated. There's another tweet from her here talking about the fact that Native American women have an additional 9 months and 23 days to get paid what white men were paid in the previous year.
Well, I love the way she frames it. Can you believe it takes a Native woman an additional 9 months and 23 days to get paid what a white male was paid the previous year?
I know, because it's not true. Like, they are earning the amount that they earn
yes.
because of what they do. They are not, having to work an extra amount of time to get paid the same.
Yes.
It's obviously distortion of what is reality.
Well, it's a complete misappropriation of the language as well. Like you say, they don't get paid, they earn less.
And then she says 2/3 of Native mums are breadwinners, yet they make 58 cents for every $1 a white man makes.
But,
I love how she has to compare it to white man.
No, but,
like, why can't you compare it to a Chinese man or an Indian man? I wonder.
But this 2/3 of Native mum are breadwinners is not because 2/3 of Native American men are house husbands.
No.
It's because, like her, she's a single mother. So it's okay, why has your community's social familial systems collapsed? Why have you found yourselves in these positions?
I'm willing to bet as well. You can see the statistic there being 58 cents for every $1 a man makes. Well, if there's half the amount of people in the household, I bet it's done on household wealth rather than individual wealth.
Probably.
I'm willing to bet.
But
anyway,
unreal. 2/3 of Native American mothers are the breadwinners.
Where
are the men?
She's the Secretary of the Interior now.
Yeah.
Obvious nonsense on race, obvious nonsense on gender. I mean, this is the old wage gap myth.
Yeah.
Which Sean Head did a great takedown of, and I'd love her to
probably
do a
is
response
disavowed
to
at this point.
I hope not. But she's not the only one, as we mentioned. There's the Secretary for Energy, if we can get that one up, which is her talking about to the black community. So this is an article saying, why should you vote for Democrat? What have you got to lose? Her question here, what the hell do you have to lose? Answer, roughly over 37,000 black lives. This is a reference to the fact that apparently 37,000 black people have died because of COVID.
Oh yeah, I went through this article.
And therefore this is Trump's fault?
No. It gets better, right? So in this article they say the pandemic that has killed black Americans at a rate of 3 to 5 times that of white Americans, depending on what state you live in. According to a research lab, black Americans make up little more than 22% of all COVID-19 deaths in the United States. It's like, well, whose fault is that? Whose fault is it that COVID-19 has been more fatal to black communities than white communities?
Trump's.
Well, yeah, but if this is,
they don't have agency. This can't be their own faults for being less healthy or because of a genetic factor. It has to be because of political reasons.
Exactly, right? But I love this. The COVID-19 pandemic is killing us at a higher, faster, and more lethal rate than being dragged across the Atlantic Ocean on a filthy ship, shackled and stacked on top of each other, while being routinely whipped, starved, and raped. Anything comparable to that is definitely losing. So it's like, right, okay, so COVID is worse than slavery. That's the narrative we're at, is it?
Yeah.
Like, oh, God, unreal. Like, unreal.
Therefore, you must vote Biden because otherwise we're essentially experiencing slavery if Trump continues to be president.
I don't know.
Obviously nuts.
Yeah.
The other one here that I found from the cabinet was this is the representative they're sending to be the ambassador for the United Nations.
Oh, good news.
And her response here, you must have seen this meme a million times now.
Yeah.
So this is the response to peaceful Black Lives Matter demonstrations at the Lincoln Memorial last summer. So this is in response to people saying, oh, the cops didn't do enough to stop the Capitol Hill protests. And this is just a lie, by the way. This is just complete bull.
Oh, is it?
Like, if you check this image, like you just Google search for the image and try and find out where it comes from, you get the next link, if we can get it up, which is that it was a city curfew, in effect, in response to riots over the last couple of days.
Thanks, George Floyd.
So you've seen the images. I mean, you know, the night where all the fires are going up in Washington, D.C., and then they came out and issued a curfew. So no, it is not that Black Lives Matter turned up to do a protest and then they were met with this, and then, you know, then the riots.
Black Lives Matter had burned down a bunch of cities, and then they were met with this.
Yeah, so I mean, you can see the 25,000 troops in response to the Capitol Hill. Well, in which case, the disproportionate response would actually be the response to Capitol Hill.
Yes,
but it's an obvious lie, and these are the kind of people you're getting in that. Those are the kind of people that are promoted by Biden. So is Biden woke while the people around him are woke? His manifesto is woke. His executive actions have been woke. The answer is yes, Boris. That's what you should have said.
I mean, I don't see how you could say no. I mean, have we got the last one, which is Biden's pick for health secretary?
Yeah. This is a lady who is called Rachel, who is his assistant on health.
And also the first trans Senate confirmee.
Yeah.
And looks very healthy.
Like every health minister.
I look forward to taking health advice from this clearly healthy and sane person.
But this sort of... Oh, God, what jokes can I even make?
None, probably. but the point is... Go back to the picture, right? The point is, right, this is Biden's strongest step forward, right? This is the intersectional credentials. The first trans Senate committee.
Do you think this person got the position on the merits of their work in the field of health?
Definitely. No question. I look at that person and think, expert. No question of it. I also think woman. Because I don't want to get deplatformed.
Oh, man.
But the interesting thing, though, about this is, this is just this congenital problem with the left, that every single one of them is an abject raging hypocrite. It's rules for thee and not for thee. And this person, Rachel Levine, Dr. Rachel Levine, was the health secretary for Pennsylvania, and she become quite the face of Pennsylvania.
It's not a good transition. I think I'm allowed to say that. She's not pulling it off.
I just can't stop thinking of Lord of the Rings.
Why? Which character?
My master, Biden the Great, bids thee welcome.
Anyway. Just, I don't mean to be mean. It's not nice to No, it's just I do not buy for a second that this person got the position on the basis of the hard work. I honestly believe this is like many leftist positions where you just say you've got the right intrinsic characteristics. You're transgender, therefore I want a transgender minister.
Old orange face. Sorry, I
don't even get that reference.
Lord of the Rings, don't worry about it. But anyway, right. So she appears to have essentially deliberately gotten old people infected with COVID in Pennsylvania, which is weird. Like, weird that they would want this to happen, right?
That's what I was getting at. Like, I knew it. Like, it wasn't going to be someone who had demonstrated excellence in the field of health.
No.
Like, the exact opposite.
The exact opposite, right? So, as Human Events reports, Pennsylvania is one of the many states witnessing catastrophic COVID-19 death rates, specifically in nursing homes and long-term care facilities for the elderly. Nearly 70% of the fatalities have occurred in these facilities, right?
So in old folks' homes in the place she was in charge of health, 70% of people have...
70% of the COVID deaths
fatalities
occurred in these facilities, right? So despite this, on March the 18th, Levine directed licensed long-term care facilities to continue admitting new patients, including those discharged from hospitals. So people who have been in hospital with COVID were to be admitted to care homes. It's like, hospitals have been a major vector of transmission for COVID, because obviously everyone goes there when they're sick, and then COVID spreads to other people, and then it gets taken away. So it's like, okay, well...
So she's sending potentially sick elderly people.
Not even potentially. Certainly. There are certainly going to be sick or elderly people with COVID who have been discharged from these hospitals and then taken to these care homes, right? And
absolute expert
quote,
in health.
The guidelines. This is from the guidelines she wrote. This may include stable patients who have the COVID-19 virus. And at the time of writing, right?
So it's certain. Like, they're certain to have it.
Certain to have it, right? At the time of writing, of the state's 3,806 deaths, 2,611 had occurred in these nursing homes and long-term care facilities, right? After harshly ordering these facilities to accept coronavirus patients and risk even more loss, she moved her 95-year-old mother out of her personal care home.
So she knew these things were killing people.
Yeah, and so she moves her mum out.
Her revealed preference is that is true, so she takes her mum out.
Exactly. And it's like...
But everyone else's mum.
I just the staggering hypocrisy. For thee, don't care. For me, my mum's going to be safe. And she's like, oh, well, my mother requested it and my sister and I, as her children, complied to move her to another location during the COVID-19 outbreak. Yeah, probably she's like, you're going to get me killed? What are you doing? Why did you do this? Get me out of here. You know? So it's like, I mean, just the staggering hypocrisy of people who I would have thought are...
Excellent pick for health minister.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone who's demonstrated a great capacity to kill old people.
Totally incompetent, but has the right diversity credentials, ticks the right boxes. Biden needed a trans person on his team to fulfill the intersectional agenda, and there we go, we got one. You know, even though she seems to have been absolutely terrible. And she seems to have actually got people killed with her ridiculous decisions. But... you know, anyway.
It's another problem with wokeness, though. It's like, you'll hire people on the basis of being a woman or trans and blah, blah, blah. It means you get incompetent people. Not because they're a woman or trans or blah, 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 but because that's the vector you're hiring them. You're not hiring them on the basis of competence, but on other vectors that have nothing to do with competence.
Absolutely, and that's the problem with hiring leftists as well. You get massive hypocrites.